this is definitely a slight improvement also through the first Nun. I actually had a fun time with the Nun II. What is up, guys and horror fans? Welcome back to my channel. This is OCD Movie Reviews. My name is Jonas Bloquet, and today I'm going to review the latest installment in the Conjuring franchise, The Nun II. This movie is directed by, once again, Michael Chaves, who directed The Curse of La Llorona and The Conjuring 3, and this movie stars the return of Taissa Farmiga and Jonas Bloquet with Reid and Bonnie Aarons. After a priest got murdered, Sister Irene returns face to face with Sister Valak, also known as the Nun. Now, when it comes to the Conjuring franchise, it's mostly very mixed. I really, of course, love the first two Conjuring films. Those are the two movies that I would say brings iconicness to horror films back. The first one was great. The Conjuring 2 is absolutely my favorite in the series. I thought The Conjuring 2 is a great horror film, and it introduces probably one of my favorite demons in horror films, Valak, also known as the Nun. So I was really excited for the first Nun movie that's coming out in 2018 after this awesome end credit scene in Annabelle Creation. That movie really let me down though. The first Nun movie really let me down. I thought it's very disappointing. It had some good scenes in it, but overall, it's definitely the most forgettable film in the Conjuring franchise. So of course, with that anticipation, I was not excited for The Nun II. Especially with Michael Chaves returning to direct. He directed The Curse of La Llorona, which that movie sucked. And The Conjuring 3 is another disappointment in the Conjuring franchise. It's definitely better than Curse of La Llorona. It had some good scenes in it, but The Conjuring 3 is definitely very disappointing. I literally went into this movie thinking this is definitely going to be the worst horror film of the year. This will definitely be on my worst list for sure. And to my surprise, guys, this is definitely one of the best directed Michael Chaves movies in the Conjuring universe, and I would say this is definitely a slight improvement also through the first Nun. I actually had a fun time with the Nun II. It's not a perfect horror film, it's definitely not the best horror film of the year. This film does have its issues, but overall, the Nun II is actually a surprisingly fun time. I would say the acting in the Nun II was actually pretty good. Taissa Farmiga returning as Sister Irene from the first Nun movie. I think she definitely improves in this movie with the first Nun movie. She's actually really good in this movie. We get to explore Sister Irene's past in this movie, and it's actually really well done, this one, surprisingly. And I thought Taissa Farmiga does a really good job as the main lead. Also, Reid. I really loved her in Missing this year. She starts to prove that she's a great actress. In this movie, she also does a really good job in this film, and she has a great chemistry with Sister Irene in the film. Jonas Bloquet, returning from the first Nun movie, I think he gets a bit more characterization in this film, and I thought he also did a pretty good job in this film. I think he's one of my favorite aspects from the first Nun movie. This movie, I like his character much more in this film. And of course, we got Bonnie Aarons returning as Valak / the Nun. When she appears, it's terrifying. She looks really cool and really terrifying in this film. And what really surprised me about The Nun II is actually the scares in the film. Now, I wasn't really scared of this movie. I liked more of the atmosphere and the way the scares are developed, which is actually a really good thing. I thought Michael Chaves does a great job when it comes to cinematography for a movie like this, and the scares in this movie are actually really well done in this film. There are some really clever scares in this film. Of course, you see in the trailer this magazine scene. That's probably one of my favorite scenes in this entire movie. It's really well done. But this movie has some pretty decent scares. Some scares you do see what's coming, but just the way Michael Chaves directed this movie, I think he directed this movie very well. It's a good looking movie, I would say. Definitely much more intense and dark looking. I think the way that Michael Chaves directed this movie, he did a really good job with this film. The story of the film is where I'm going to get to my issues here, because this film does follow two different stories, and it does get a little bit messy once in a while. Definitely the first act of this movie was pretty slow to get to the main point of the film, because it's definitely introducing a lot of characters in this film. There's this little girl in this film who I think she does a great job in the film, but she wasn't that interesting of a character in my personal opinion. And with a film that just follows two different stories, it does feel a little bit messy once in a while. And the third act of this movie is definitely very predictable. You know exactly what's going to happen throughout the third act. It's not the most memorable third act that I've seen in the Conjuring universe. But I gotta say, for Michael Chaves though, from me that I'm not a fan of him for The Curse of La Llorona and The Conjuring 3, this is definitely the best he directed, and I would say this is definitely a slight improvement from those two films. So Michael Chaves, you did a pretty good job, and he's probably the director that directs most Conjuring films with James Wan. So Michael Chaves, he's kind of learning, he's kind of improving what he needs to prove. Overall, guys, I had a fun time still with The Nun II. This is definitely not the best film in the Conjuring universe, but I would say this is definitely one of the better Conjuring spin-offs movie with Annabelle creation. I think the scares are really well done. The movie is not boring or anything, it's definitely entertaining from start to finish. The cast of the movie does a great job. Bonnie Aarons does a great job once again as Valak in this movie. There are some pretty decent scares in this film. The story is a little bit messy once in a while, but it gets to where it needs to get to. I like this whole murder mystery story into this film. I think it's a very interesting way to do a Conjuring film. So overall, I actually had a fun time with The Nun II, so I am going to give The Nun II a B. Also, there is a mid-credit scene in this movie as well, and yeah, it's there. You can watch it, but it's nothing big or anything. So guys, that is my review for The Nun II. Let me know in the comments below what is your favourite movie in the Conjuring universe. Let me know that also in the comments below. Make sure you guys follow me on social media links down below, keep contact with me, and make sure you guys subscribe to my channel for my latest movie reviews and other movie related content. Thank you guys so much for watching, and have a nice day.